Good evening from London, wrestling fans. I'm your host, Ben Allison, and you are listening to Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast, your one-stop shop for professional wrestling insight, news, and reviews on a daily basis. And of course, last night was AEW WrestleDream, and the Rated R superstar Adam Copeland is now all elite. Edge has made the jump from WWE to AEW just days after WWE signed one of AEW's top prospects in Jade Cargill. What a crazy time for the wrestling business right now, and I'm loving every single second of it. Today we're gonna strip this show apart. We're gonna say what we liked, what we didn't like, why we gave it the ratings we did, all of that. And of course, who better to kick off the panel than the head of reviews himself, the man who reviewed the show last night, Coby Galenzoski. How are you today, Coby?
Pretty good. Of course, AEW WrestleDream was a blast. It was enjoyable. It was a fun show altogether. Apparently, my ratings have started issues with Ben Allison, and apparently his love for Zack Sabre Jr. has faded away. It's the first time I've heard about it, but at the end of the day, we'll get into the match later on. But I thoroughly enjoyed the show. Obviously, two different products. We had No Mercy, which was a way is less is more, and this this show is, of course, more is more, if you want to call it that, because they always have 10 matches on the show, and okay, my head hurts.
Fair enough.
I'm sore. I'm tired. I'm injured. That's my punk rant for the. Rant.
Coby had to do all the Instagram posts last night and get the review out and watch the entire show start to finish. So, in fairness to him, he had a lot to do last night. And yeah, you mentioned a rumor which is circulating on Instagram that I am a Zack Sabre Jr. hater, which is quite ironic considering on a wrestling podcast, on the All Real Wrestling podcast the other day, I said that Zack Sabre Jr. is actually my favorite wrestler, so I don't know where some of these people get their rumors from, but no, it's not true. I love Zack Sabre Jr., and I wasn't even reviewing the show. We'll get into that later on. We got a couple of comments. Firstly, Bobby Petito. Hello, welcome to the show, Bobby. And number one Superfly saying he's been proven wrong, but he thought Adam would be done with wrestling. I thought the same thing. We'll get into that later on. Also joining us, we have Bret Sternberg. Bret, how are you today?
Doing great. Last night was truly a dream come true for me, honestly, with Adam Copeland coming into AEW. Like we said, we're going to get into that later, and we have a bunch else to get into. Last night, like Coby said as well, I am tired. I am exhausted from this entire weekend of wrestling, but you know what? We got a lot of good things to talk about right now because of it, so I'm not mad.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm going to be honest here. Admittedly, I didn't watch the show live last night. I watched it this morning, right? But I am fired up after this weekend in wrestling. We had a banger of a pay-per-view, NXT No Mercy, and then just 24 hours later, we had this show. It was great. We're going to talk more about it, but firstly, shout out to the Impact substitute for the show today, Shard. Shard, thank you for stepping in so late, and welcome to the show.
Hey man, when you told me that I got an opportunity to talk about the pay-per-view from last night, I gotta step in, man. We had a monumental moment happen, and we had a few matches that could possibly be match of the year. But I'm here, man. I got to see two great pay-per-views. I'm tired too, but we still rocking, man. Wrestling off air. If you ain't catch the post show to No Mercy, go ahead and run that back. Run back every videos, man. Let's get into it.
Absolutely, yes. Certainly go and check out Wrestling Off the Air, the NXT post show for No Mercy after this, because that was a fantastic show with Shard and Drizzy. But now let's get right into things and let's talk the match which opened the show for the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Championships. MJF versus The Righteous in a handicap match. I said the other day, I argued with David on this show the other day when David said, oh, there's no way that this can make the Righteous look good. I said to him, hang on a second. Let's think about how many people who, knew who the Righteous were a month ago compared to now. Now, they've been put in this situation. A lot more people know who they are. They'll be getting more over because of it. But I wasn't really expecting MJF to hit a double kangaroo kick on them. I mean, they did look a bit rubbish in this. They did look a bit naff. But, I mean, it was a fun opener. I enjoyed it. The crowd loved it. It's just one of those things where my inner Ignacio in me, the inner traditional wrestling guy didn't really like this match. I'm not a fan of handicap matches really ever, and this wasn't one of them. Coby, give me your thoughts on it.
We're in the position where we kind of got to take away the booking questions. Like we can criticize the booking and the results without criticizing the match in itself. And that's essentially what I was saying in my review. As I said, a lot of these matches we've seen All In, we've seen the match at the Dark Order, we've seen the matches in the tournament at the beginning. A lot of these matches have a similar structure, but they have things in common. One, a hot crowd because it's MJF, it's Adam Cole, and whoever their opponents are gonna have done well at adapting as a heel performer, because we saw them face a face team in Darby Allin or not Darby Allin. They faced a face team during the build up to All In, and it was at the point where they were more over than them. So they've always done well. And if I'm talking about the match structure, it's basic storytelling, because we're working with building to something. MGF building to the body slam. He did it with Big Bill, and he's effectively doing this now. And in this match, every time he sets up for the kangaroo kick, the crowd are going to go nuts. It's basic storytelling, but it's being done very effectively. That's where you got to give credit where credit is due with the work that MJF is doing. Booking wise, this match, it doesn't help the Righteous. I said it on the prediction, so I wouldn't be opposed to having someone run down and be like, I'm doing this for Adam, I'm not doing this for you. Those titles mean more to Adam, and I don't care how much they mean to you. If that was a Roderick Strong, if that was a Kyle O'Reilly, if he was able to return, if that was a part of one of the Kingdom or the Kingdom in general. I think it was a missed opportunity, because now you're looking at the Righteous of where do they go next. And nobody knows, because you just had MJF essentially very much bury them. And that's the problem with the match. That's the problem with the result. The match itself, it was fun. It was enjoyable. It's what you expect from an MJF tag match, or at least an MJF opener. But, I mean, like I said, with All Out, you didn't have a world tag title match. You didn't have a world women's championship. And you didn't have a world title match at All Out. And you didn't have a world title match last night either. So we're in an interesting position where even their top world champions in the opener. But
yeah,
I can nitpick it all day, but at the end of the day, it was a good enough opener to me.
Yeah. No, I mean, that is a great point. MJF, he's the world champion, but obviously the last two pay-per-views he hasn't defended the belt. So that's going to be interesting to see, where that goes going forward and what's next for the Righteous as well, like you touched upon. But that wasn't the only Ring of Honor title on the line, because the Ring of Honor World Championship and the New Japan Strong Openweight Championship were also on the line, and that was in the match which followed this, where Eddie Kingston took on Shibata. Oh, wow, I love this. This was a bit of me, right? Eddie Kingston, I'm a big fan of. Shibata, you guys know I'm never going to complain when I see Shibata wrestling, and these two, they just tore the house down. They really, really did. I think I enjoyed this match a lot more than most people. Admittedly, there was nothing overly innovative about it. There wasn't a real story, so it was never going to do well on our star system, right? It won't. But, on a personal level, I loved this. Shard, what was your thoughts?
Yeah, I shared similar thoughts as you, man. I think that you can't go wrong with a match between Shibata and Eddie Kingston. I mean, these are two of the better, especially Shibata, in-ring wrestlers, and Eddie Kingston is great in his own way as well. And I thought these two had a very physical match. I mean, you see all the chops and slaps to each other. I thought it was a strong bout between them, and I'm really, really enjoying the you know progression and the well booking that we're getting with Eddie Kingston. I feel this is a guy who's very underrated on all dockets of the AEW roster, and it feels good to see that he's really starting to hit his stride and getting his appreciation, and starting to win matches and whatnot, and being a champion. That match between him and Claudio was incredible, and this is a good bout for him. I'm curious to see what continues to happen. I like the sprinkle in of these ROH matches within the pay-per-views, because I think it is telling to utilize key superstars on your roster for that brand, to give that brand more legitimacy. And in a situation like this, I don't mind it on the card for WrestleDream, knowing the you know idea of what WrestleDream is supposed to be, uh, having its ties with Inoki and New Japan and all that. So I thought it was a strong bout. I thought it was a strong match. Definitely one of the better matches of the night.
Absolutely, I could not agree more. And somebody who also couldn't agree more is Bobby Petito, who's saying in the comments he liked the match too. Absolutely, it was just a banger, wasn't it? But now let's move on to the women's division. Chris Statlander defending the TBS Championship against Julia Hart. I thought for what it was, this match was really strong. I'm loving Julia Hart in the company right now. I've gone on about her tons lately, but her character, it's really adding to the division, and I'm glad that these two women got this chance on a pay-per-view to really showcase themselves. Because I mean, you could make a case that maybe Chris Statlander is, but even still, like, she wasn't she's not one of the core ones, the core women in that division who constantly, get showcased. The Britt Bakers, the Sarayas, the Tony Storms, and I'm not having a go at any of those women because they're all fantastic. But still, it's nice to see, some other people showcased for once as well. Julia Hart, unfortunately, did not get the win. I wasn't too happy about that, but hey, Chris Statlander's continuing her reign, and she's still looking strong. Bret, give me your take on this one.
So first off, great match by both women involved, Julia Hart and Chris Statlander. I do believe that Julia Hart has progressed quite a bit over the past few weeks, as we've been talking about her gimmick, her character, her style of wrestling, everything. And I believe that if it wasn't for AEW kind of pushing her on us, we would have almost given up, because it's kind of repetitive. There's not giving too much of us to hold on to and grasp and really like love. But now the fact that they're pushing it on us a little more gave us more time to feel it out, the entire story. And now we're seeing Julia Hart becoming a different character. She's really embodying that dark role that Malachi did as when he was wrestling. He's not right now, obviously, because of injuries, I believe, or something. So I think that she's doing a great job for the House of Black. But as far as the match itself, Statlander, I believe, should have won. I don't think Julia is ready to hold that title, even though they're pushing her like she is. I don't think that she's good enough of a real in-ring wrestler to go ahead and be the champion right now. I think Stat has the full embodiment of a champion. The only thing I would hope they would do with Statlander is use her physique more as her gimmick and make her more of, like I said this in past weeks, an Ultimate Warrior type of gimmick or like a type of character for her. But yeah, I do believe that Julia Hart did a great job. What they're putting out with her is coming off actually a lot better than it was in past weeks. And Statlander should have taken that home. She did take it home. Yeah, and I just think that this is a great match altogether. I just think that Julia Hart will get her time coming soon. It's just not yet.
Fair enough. No, I mean, I do get your point, and I also very much see your point about Chris Statlander too. That character could certainly, be interesting because she's obviously, she clearly works hard in the gym. Chris Statlander, she is absolutely ripped. But yeah, I would have loved Julia to win. I love Julia Hart. I keep going on about her, but talking about things that I love, here's something I don't love, and that is fatal four-way tag matches. I went on a rant about it yesterday, talking about NXT No Mercy. Well, whether I'm talking about WWE or AEW, the point remains the same. I didn't like this match. It was a mess. Tag rules weren't followed at times. I mean, I actually liked it as much, actually, says the No Mercy one, and I disliked it as much at the same time as well. Of course, the tag team match that I'm talking about is the Young Bucks versus the Guns versus Hook and OC versus Lucha Bros. Love all 8 guys in this match, just like that. Just like I loved all the 8 men in the NXT No Mercy match. But fatal 4-way tag matches just aren't my style. But the big news is the Young Bucks are the new #1 contenders, and they will be facing FTR once again. I mean, that threw me off. Coby, your thoughts?
I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, Ben. Right now, was I receiving flack for the rating I gave it?
I actually didn't
Instagram, because I
check on
haven't
this
checked it.
one.
Okay, well, we both haven't checked. That just shows how the flack doesn't matter to us. But at the end of the day, this is a match where I want to say, like 2 minutes into it, Ray Phoenix was taken out. Like, I hope that was a work. But when you're sitting there saying, like, he had the tape on his back, and you're sitting there, oh yeah, doctors are tending to Ray Phoenix. That's one of 2 injuries, of possible injuries that happened in this match. Or not in this match, in this night. At the end of the day, this was a worse match than what we got at No Mercy. We complain about the tag team psychology. There was no psychology. There was no story in this match. It had a decent crowd for what it needed to be. Not as hot as not as comparable as other matches like the Danielson, like the Swerve, like all the other matches we'll get into. But at the end of the day, this just wasn't a great match, and this could have been a Rampage match. This could have been a Collision match. If you're putting this on your pay-per-view, how are you justifying when half of the matches on the pay-per-view are TV matches that you could do? It's hard to argue your pay-per-views are worth the cost. And this is not meant to be a rant to go into it, but that match is not a pay-per-view match, whether you like it or not. They presented it as a future World Tag Team Championship. We knew they were going to run it back eventually. I don't know if they're trying to project it for Full Gear or not, but I know they're kind of saying it's a future tag title shot at any time. So I don't know if that's your avenue to have the Bucks turn heel in that manner. I don't know, but this match was not good.
I do have to agree with you there. And #1 Superfly has a great point. He's saying, perhaps the mist that Julia, sprayed on the ropes actually resulted in the many slip-ups during this match, because there were quite a few slip-ups. That is a great point, #1 Superfly. And perhaps it did. Perhaps that was, the reason. I mean, I have just checked the Instagram, and Coby, they're actually agreeing with your rating. That's saying it was worse. It was sloppy at times. I will have to agree with that. Coby, Coby's agreeing with the comments there, but yeah. I mean, let's move on now to something which was a lot better, and that was Hangman Page versus Swerve Strickland. Well, we knew going into this, the story was fantastic. The story which these 2 men have told has just been exceptional. Hangman Page, we know how good of a character he is. He's a character a lot of people are able to relate to. And Swerve Strickland, well, he's just a star. I've said it for years that he's a star. Like, I can genuinely say in 2016, when I saw him on the Indies, where I said he was a star, I genuinely was saying it when next to no one was. He went to WWE. I expect him to become a huge star. Obviously, things never worked out there. But now in AEW, well, he went to AEW and kind of the same thing happened. But now, over a year later, it's beginning to get to that point where he might just become that star because he got the win over Hangman Page. Hangman Page, looked completely unconfident because the crowd were completely for Swerve. He wasn't expecting it. We've rarely seen the crowd against Hangman, and every time the crowd has been, he's lost. And that trend continued as Swerve Strickland got the win. A banger of about 4.75 stars on the WR rating scale rated by Coby. I agree with the rating. But what did you think about the match, Shard?
Man, this match lived up to expectations. Going into the pay-per-view, I vocally expressed my excitement for this feud and this match. I love both wrestlers as professional wrestlers and also as characters, and they lived up to the hype. Uh, Breaking down exactly what happened within the match, I mean, you just gotta love the moment for Swerve. This is his hometown. You see all the crowd with people wearing Defy shirts, which is the indie promotion out there, and they've grown to, like you mentioned, that time where Swerve was coming up before he got signed to NXT. You knew the star that was Shane Strickland, and it's glowing right now, man. His star power is absolutely beaming right now. The presentation of him, the faction that he's in, they got such a strong point with him, and a lot of it is solely because of him. Obviously, you got comedic relief with Prince Nana doing his dance, and you got his heavies, but this guy is doing exactly what I saw him do in the beginning of NXT. He is a genius as a heel. He is a mad scientist. Like, people forget how creative and genius he was with the feud between him and Leon Ruff. It's coming into fruition, and this is a monumental win for him. Beating Hangman Adam Page, who is a former AEW World Champion, a guy that we saw have one of the most incredible moments within AEW. Like, that's a super huge mark on his resume, and it has me excited because I feel like we're not done with this feud. I feel like they're playing off of it so well. Hangman Adam Page plays the role of spiraling down and being kicked to the curb and fighting his way up. We can slowly rebuild to that and get back to a match between these two where they run it back. And Swerve, he will be a AEW World Champion within the next few years. The guy is money. Besides MJF, maybe Christian Cage, he's in that top echelon of heels on AEW and just one of the top superstars on AEW. And yeah, man, it was definitely a match that deserved that 4.75 stars that my man Coby put it up. And it was one of my favorite matches of the whole weekend from both pay-per-views.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. Swerve Strickland, Hangman Page, I want to see a rematch. And I would not mind it if, Swerve wins the International Championship in the next couple of weeks, and then they end up running it back for that belt. I really wouldn't mind it. Just, basically as a stepping stone for Swerve to get to that AEW Championship, because like you said, he deserves that. He really, really, really does. But now let's move on to another match. Ricky Starks versus Wheeler Yuta. I enjoyed it. I thought it was fine. Coby, earlier on, you touched upon, some matches on the card not really being necessarily pay-per-view worthy. This was probably one of them, but it was enjoyable. I had no issue with it. Fun, whatever. Ricky Starks got the win with a little bit of help from Big Bill, but the real highlight of this match was Jon Moxley on commentary. He obviously was on commentary for the buy-in for Claudio's match. But, I mean, he came back, he returned for the pay-per-view to be on commentary for this match, and it was just hilarious. He's great on commentary, honestly. Jon Moxley has a place on that commentary desk anytime, as far as I'm concerned now. And the arguments between the dialogue between him and Nigel McGuinness, whoo, it was fantastic. But Bret, what did you think about Starks versus Utah?
Yeah, I have similar thoughts about it as you do. I believe that this was not, and Coby as well. I believe that this was not maybe a pay-per-view worthy match, but this was still entertaining to say the least, because not so much of the match itself, but what was going on around the match with Moxley. And I think that was kind of funny as well. I think he's proven himself to be a commentator now while he's injured. So now he can do both. He can still be with the company as they travel around, and if he is injured, he can get better with them as they go. But as far as the match itself, Ricky Starks getting the win via Rochambeau, which was cool, and I just don't think it's doing much for Ricky right now. With this win specifically, because it was over Yuta. Yuta's the least of the powerful in the Blackpool Combat Club. I also don't know, for a fan perspective, is the Blackpool Combat Club a heel faction or a face faction right now?
I think they're meant to be tweeners.
What was that?
I think they're meant to be both.
Yeah, so that I feel like is very confusing for a fan, maybe not so as intelligent wrestling wise as like with backstories and gimmicks and things like that, for us to pick up on. But I think they're doing something kind of interesting, which is kind of making that in between line, which is face and heel, blurred a little bit. It's cool. I think the match was but I think that everything around it was perfectly fine. I think it was just like a filler match, honestly.
Yeah, no, I mean, you made a great point there about, tweeners. They're hard to make work, because it's a difficult thing, because you don't know whether to cheer them, boo them at times. It very much does confuse casual fans, like you said. But I think they're doing, a decent enough job, and it's a very interesting thing, and it's quite ballsy as well to pull off. And yeah, so far I don't hate it, but it's certain times in certain cities, in certain feuds, that it kind of gets a little confusing. But now let's move on to something which just wasn't confusing, and that was Bryan Danielson versus Zack Sabre Jr. I love both of these guys. This was really a dream match. As soon as Bryan Danielson left WWE and went to AEW, this is the match which I wanted to see. I wanted Danielson to go over to Japan and challenge ZSJ. Obviously, we were coming out of a global pandemic. That wasn't that easy to, just get sorted out. But this match, it delivered. It really, really did. Going in, I would have liked there to be more story. I've already said this. They should have built it way better than they did. They should have. But the match itself, it was just a technical masterpiece. I loved it. It's the style of wrestling which just gets me hooked, right? I said it before, I'm obviously British, right? So I'm a sucker for the technical style of things. I'm a sucker for Zack Sabre Jr. And talking about that, Coby Galenzoski rated this match 4.75 stars. And he'll tell you why in a second. But in our Instagram comments, there was a commenter claiming that for some reason I have some issue with Zack Sabre Jr. And that's why we gave it 4.75 stars? That could not be further from the truth. I absolutely love Zack Sabre Jr. He's my favorite wrestler. I wasn't reviewing the show. I wasn't even awake when Coby gave it that rating, right? But, I don't know where people make this stuff up sometimes about us. It is quite worrying, to be honest. And the worst part is, people were believing it. I was like, what? He's my favorite wrestler. And personally, I've never met the guy. Would love to, but never have done. But Coby, why did you rate it 4.75 stars instead of the full glorious 5?
So, just to kind of open up my mind and let people know about how I think about wrestling and how I think about the scale as that me and Ben had created whatever year, just under 2 years ago. At the end of the day, we're looking at this match, and I'm not going to say anything bad because there isn't a way to say anything bad. This is great technical wrestling. We shared concerns about the crowd not liking it. The crowd was accepting of it. They were hot for Brian. They were hot for technical wrestling. I'm pretty sure there was at least one "This is wrestling" chant. Tell me if I'm wrong. I don't think I am. But at the end of the day, while there was phenomenal work, great crowd, great psychology with the selling and the work that these men put in, there is not much of a story in this match. I'll say this, and I said this before the show as we were talking. Coming out of this match, there is a story they can go because we saw Nigel mention it on commentary, and there's a promo of Zack Sabre Jr. saying, "You're either going to come to my home in London or at my adopted home in Japan, and we're going to do this again because you didn't tap me out." That's what Nigel was talking about. That's what Zack Sabre Jr. said in a post-match interview/video promo. At the end of the day, this match isn't going to be remembered as having a strong story in this match. I do believe, like Ben said, there is valid concerns and valid criticisms regarding the build of this match. And like I said, if you're going to sell this match, you have to sell this match other than the fact that it's going to be a great match. You can't sell something just based on the fact it's going to be a phenomenal match. And that's kind of what they were hoping for. It wasn't the main event. It wasn't the top of the card. It wasn't the marquee, which is the right move. Because we had bigger matches. We had more important matches to deal with. Of course, we'll get on to what happened in the main event. This did not have a one-star story. And it's as simple as that. To me, this is probably... This isn't Brian's best match of the year. This was better than his Okada match. I don't think this was as strong as... I mean, it's hard for this to be as strong as the strap match, but because the strap match is a different scenario and a different style of match, because this was pure technical wrestling. That was technical wrestling with a weapon, with aspects of brutality. We saw the Iron Man. Brian is hitting on all cylinders this year. In terms of Zack Sabre Jr., I can confidently say I believe this is Zack Sabre Jr.'s match of the year. This is his personal best match of the year, but I still don't believe that was I still don't believe that was a 5-star match regarding our system.
Fair enough. No, I mean, obviously, on our system, story matters a lot. Psychology matters a lot. Obviously, psychology got 4 marks. Fundamentals got 4 marks, but the story is where, it just missed out. When it came down to it, which sucked as it was truly an amazing match. You said it, they're teasing a rematch because, of course, Danielson, the coward, just like all Americans, didn't have the guts to win by the rules. So instead, he won by pinfall. Disgusting. Zack Sabre Jr., still the best technical wrestler in the world, straight here from England. I'm only joking. If only Clark was here so I could wind him up and he could go and say, who are you going to call, or whatever it is that he does about his America rant. But anyway, let's move on from that banger all about, and let's move on to Kenny Omega teaming up with Chris Jericho and Kota Ibushi to take on Don Callis' family, otherwise known as Takeshita, Sammy Guevara, and Will Ospreay. I mean, this kind of under-delivered. It was fun, but, I mean, it got messy in the second half. And to me, it just did under-deliver. It was as simple as that. I had high expectations, and it just did not live up to those. Maybe that's my fault. But, Shard, do you share similar concerns, or am I just being too harsh?
No, I mean, it didn't do too much for me either. I mean, the match was okay for the most part, which is unfortunate because you have 6 incredible wrestlers, and that may go to a point where you said early on your take in regards to just the structure of the match. But I mean, it was an okay match. I feel like it happened at a time where it was kind of a lot of the case where a lot of people were super excited for obviously was going to happen in the main event, and then just a lot of great matches prior to it were maybe the crowd wasn't as hot to it, and maybe just as viewers we're tired because we've been watching. At that point, we're like, what, 3 hours worth of wrestling consumed. But it was an okay match. It's just it's interesting. I'm curious to see what the progression of what will be with the Don Callis family. I did like their entrance with obviously the portrait continuing with them, um, and all of that. But I'm just kind of a little bit tired of everything that has to do with the deals with a lot of Chris Jericho booking. To be honest with you, Ben, I talk about it every week on the AEW Dynamite review shows. I don't know. I have not a lot of interest in it. I would rather a lot of these guys being able to do a lot of different stuff. Kenny Omega has kind of been mixed with this storyline, and Jericho's been mixed with the storyline for a while, and we've seen Jericho mixed with Sammy for a while. It's just kind of tiresome at this point, and the match probably leaves us to believe that it's going to only extend. I don't have a lot of excitement for it. It definitely was just a whatever match to me.
Yeah, no, I do agree with you there. But another one which I think a lot of people thought was kind of a whatever match, and again, I think it was kind of because it was one of the two matches between, Danielson, Zack Sabre Jr. in the main event was FTR versus Aussie Open. These guys tore down the house in New Japan Pro Wrestling Roll Quest last year, and this just wasn't that level. They had a solid story going in. Aussie Open were finally, getting over with the AEW audience. But this match just didn't get the time it should have had. It didn't reach the standard which it could have reached. And was a little disappointing too to me, if I'm being completely honest here. But it didn't hurt Aussie Open in any way. And it helped them. It didn't hurt them. It did blatantly help them. Because now I feel like coming out of this, Aussie Open, do have more of a fan base in AEW. AEW fans care for them more. So I think long term this match was good, but as a one-off, it kind of under-delivered to me on, personal level after that great match in New Japan. But Bret, what was your thoughts?
Well, I will say this. Shad hit on it right before he was done speaking. This is a 3-hour plus event, and we are just getting into a Kenny Chris match, and now I'm talking about a FTR Aussie Open match. Yeah, the crowd was exhausted, probably. I'm not gonna lie, and they didn't sound as excited as they would maybe in the beginning of the night or even at the end, which we'll talk about in just a second. But I do believe that it was a timing factor. I think this was a very long pay-per-view, as we had mentioned in previous times, but that's why they cut WrestleMania into 2 days, because it was just extremely long and people couldn't really pay attention to things that much, and giving the wrestlers the respect that they deserve as well. Now, by saying that, I do believe Aussie Open, like I said a few weeks ago or last week, I don't believe which show it was on, but I said that they're one of the top 3 tag teams in the entire world, as well as FTR. I believe that they're either top 1 or 2. Now we're gonna have the Bucks in the mix with that tag team match. I think that we're creating a really good stepping stone for the tag team division over here in AEW. Never saying it was bad, but this is really good what is going on. I do believe the match was a little boring and a little subpar for these 4 wrestlers that were involved, but I do believe that it builds up Aussie Open to be a part of that picture, like I said, going forward. So I believe either way, good job. I do think that Aussie Open comes out on top, even though FTR did win.
Yeah. I mean, I do agree with you. This helped Aussie Open a lot more than it did help FTR. Number 1 Superfly in the comments is saying, do you think it would have been interesting for, the Young Bucks to cash in their title shot immediately and just beat FTR and turn heel? I mean, I don't think it works like a Money in the Bank. I think AEW, have to authorize it, but yeah, that would have been great. We've also got another comment from Number 1 Superfly, saying that anyone else find it a bit funny that Jon Moxley straight up said on commentary that he got fined for his inappropriate language. That was great, and he went on to swear another 4 times, so presumably he got, fined another 4 times too, which is which is hilarious. There, he was really funny in commentary, wasn't he? And Bobby Petito is saying that on Wednesday, Chris Jericho will be teaming up with Kenny Omega to take on Sammy Guevara and Takeshita. That'll certainly be an interesting tag match. But now let's move on. Let's move on to what everybody's talking about. Let's move on to the reason why I have such a smile on my face today, right? And you guys know me, I'm a big WWE guy, I'm a big AEW guy, I have no bias whatsoever, right? But just something about how happy Edge was awesome to me, because Edge was one of the few wrestlers who got me into wrestling, back in the day. I did a presentation about Edge when I was in year 4 in school. I was just, as a kid, this was one of the guys who I was obsessed with, along with, Shawn Michaels and a few others, right? Rey Mysterio. But let's start with the match, first of all. Christian Cage, Darby Allin, main event of AEW WrestleDream. These two killed it. Darby Allin got the early first fall. Christian Cage came back. And then in the end, it was being a back and forth. Darby Allin was thrown into steel steps. I really fear for his body, but I'm not going to make a big deal out of that today. But Darby Allin was just being thrown about the place. It was really intense. There was roll-up pins. You were like, is this it? No, it's not. And then in the end, Nick Wayne turned on Darby Allin. He did what I said he'd do on this podcast weeks ago. And he has acknowledged Christian Cage as his dad in maybe one of the most morbid storylines in recent wrestling, but because it's Christian Cage, it just works. Nick Wayne, I think, is going to be elevated to a new level now with Christian Cage. I think this is absolutely fantastic. I think at the age Nick Wayne is, to, being a storyline like this, that is absolutely fantastic. But, Nick Wayne and Christian Cage started beating down Darby Allin after the match. Sting came out, and Luchasaurus helped take him out too. They were going to do the concerto. Christian Cage had the chair ready. He was lining it up. The arena went black. A video vignette played of a car driving through Seattle. And then lights came back on. You think you know him. On this day. And it was absolutely brilliant. Edge came out. Everyone went wild. Carter, who was actually there, missed it. He left already. I wonder what Carty Cornette's going to say about that. But Carter had missed it, and everybody else saw it, and everybody else went nuts. Edge, Adam Copeland is in All Elite Wrestling. He was so happy. You could see him later on. When he was talking in the press conference, he was just delighted. And I'm delighted for him too. I'm really, really, really excited to see what he does on this run. He came down to the ring. He got in the ring. Christian Cage's face was just blank. He didn't know what to do. He handed Edge the chair. Edge grabbed the chair. And he went to line up the concerto too. What? He's come to help Christian? No, he didn't. He used the chair and he used it on Nick Wayne and Luchasaurus while Christian Cage was running to the back, leaving his sons for dead. And yeah, the show finished with Edge and Sting standing there. Wow, oh wow. Edge, Sting in the same ring. Edge, Darby Allin in the same ring. All of these matches we could get. Edge versus Kenny Omega. Edge versus Samoa Joe. Edge versus Jon Moxley, which has shockingly never happened before. I mean, there are just so many that I want to see, that I feel like I need to see in AEW. I mean, it kind of is like a breath, a breath of fresh air, right, for this division. There's all this negativity surrounding CM Punk since he left AEW. It's felt like something was missing. Edge has now come in. He's filling that role. He's trying to bring more eyes back to the product. If anyone has, stopped watching in the last few weeks, if you have, that's a mistake, because they've been on fire, truthfully, anyway. But this was just absolutely brilliant. I'm just so happy about it. I really am. Shard, I'm gonna go to you first. What did you think about this main event match and Adam Edge Copeland, the rated R superstar, being all elite?
Yeah, well, first let me talk about the match. And man, you mentioned it earlier. Darby Allin, that boy has me fearful. I feel like I'm his like a concerned like parent for him for all the crazy bumps he takes. But just watching Adam Copeland Edge's press conference and mentioning that he spoke to Darby and Darby mentioning that, man, I wish I was in your time frame where I could have got through a spot, a spear through a firing table. Uh, This is definitely a match with Christian, seeing how Darby style being so inspired by the old school TLC matches of, the Dudleys and Edge and Christian and the Hardys. He lives for this, and this is monumental for him. So kudos to him. Incredible match. Like you, I also said on the Dynamite shows on Throwback Thursdays that this has to be the move. Nick Wayne has to turn heel. This is going to be the factor that's going to take him to the next level. And I'm so glad we're getting that happening right now. I think Nick Wayne is a person that's so young, so talented, and you add him in a group with what Christian is doing as one of the best heels in professional wrestling in general. I mean, you got money over here. This kid is going to definitely reach levels, new heights to where you help him build a character and you align him with someone like that. Super excited for that. In regards to the debut of Edge, Adam Copeland, I would have never expected that to happen if you would have told me this a few months ago, a year ago, a few years ago when we had that main event with him, Roman, and Bryan Danielson, who ironically both of them are now on AEW. But just hearing him talking, seeing the presentation, and just seeing him, with so much glee and happiness, I'm super excited for him and I'm super happy for him because you got to do stuff that is within your own happiness. He gave WWE so many beautiful moments, so much great time within his 20 years, 25 plus years. And he gets to have a new chapter within his career and he gets an opportunity to, come back and have feuds or maybe tag with one of his best friends in Christian and his tag partner, being in the same locker room as Jericho again, as FTR. Like, it's a definite exciting time for him. And just him being out of the sport for a while and not having a lot of creative satisfying storylines within the last few years or the last year in WWE, he gets a new canvas of people that he gets to add on his resume, gets the opportunity to wrestle. And this is a major get for AEW, man. I this might be their biggest signing in my opinion. You can argue CM Punk, you can argue Danielson, Adam Cole. Edge is a Hall of Famer already. Edge is one of the most renowned wrestlers that people know. Like, I've had people hit my phone up who are not watching wrestling at all. They're like, yo, Edge left? Like, he left WWE to go to AEW? Man, big W for AEW, man, and big W for Edge. And it's not that much of an L for WWE. They gave him an opportunity. Creative differences don't happen. Sometimes WWE looks like they are working on younger talent. They got Jade. I'm glad that they're not leaving on bad blood. And yeah, man, I'm definitely excited for what's about to happen with Mr. Adam Copeland.
Absolutely, the future is exciting, and yeah, WWE focusing on younger talent. They got Jade Cargill, AW got Edge. I feel like both sides will be very happy, individually right now. But the next person who I'm going to send it to is somebody who's going to tell me, I told you so, because a few months ago in our chats, right, I said, I think it's a 10% chance Edge goes to AEW. I think it's a 50% chance he signs a new deal with WWE, and I think a 40% chance that he just retires straight up now, because after the match of Sheamus, that was how I was feeling. But Coby said, no, no, no. I think he is going all elite wrestling, and Coby, this is the only time that I'm saying it. You were right.
I mean, I was at the time. I was just like, oh, I actually wanted to see the percentages I gave it because I, time and time again, just within the last month and a half, since that message has been sent, I was just like, I know I'm right, and I know there were people who think differently and don't want it to be true. And at the end of the day, there was, I don't want to say misunderstandings, but there was obviously a difference of opinions between some of us. And at the end of the day, that's the greatness of wrestling. I think I have to bury this idea of Edge betrayed WWE or he's a traitor. I have to take this opportunity to bury it, because Edge can time and time again go on and say WWE did all this for him. He had 25 years in the business. Yes, he had 9 years off because of his neck injury. But at the end of the day, Edge is a legend in the business. He's had a Hall of Fame career. And if he's going into, like, if we're taking what he said as face value, if we're take for what he said in his statement as the truth, I assume he wanted more. He wanted a bigger role. He wanted to help with more people. A lot of people saying he buried the talent. I mean, he doesn't have control over his booking. He might in AEW, but WWE gave him the wins. WWE gave him the wins over The Miz. WWE gave him the wins over Finn Balor. That's not an Edge situation. Edge didn't have the creative control to say, no, you're putting me over in this match. At least I hope he didn't, because I don't think he did. They booked all those victories and whatever. At the end of the day, the thing he said in the press conference was his daughter said, go be with Uncle Jay. And for those who don't know, Christian's name is Jay Russo. That is who Christian is outside of wrestling. When your family wants you to be inspired, when you like, and that's what I took this as. Edge is finally being inspired. Edge is finally saying, I am ready to do this. I am ready to give back into the business. Yes, he had a classic rivalry with Seth Rollins. Yes, he had classic moments like his return, like his main event with Roman and Bryan. He had a great match with Seth, like I already said. He had a lot of good stuff with the Judgment Day, although he won the rivalry. At the end of the day, Edge is ready to give back to the business in a larger role. They're saying he is full time. To me, apparently he's confirmed to be on Collision and Dynamite, and then wrestling after the Canadian Thanksgiving in October 10th. So he's already taking a loaded schedule, and I hope this isn't a mistake. I don't think it will be. I think Edge will be fine. But this tells me Edge wanted more and wants to get in his last years in the business. He wants to be able to give back in a greater deal. And if he felt like he couldn't do that in WWE, that's on him. He's betting on himself, if you want to say it that way. But I don't saying Edge is a traitor and this entire idea of tribalism, it is garbage. It's toxic. I don't want to hear it. I don't want it. Like, don't be that guy. There's not enough of bad things I can say about that statement. At the end of the day, Edge moving to AEW is good for AEW in the short term. Their ticket sales haven't been great. Hopefully, Edge can boost them. Hopefully, Edge can give them a ratings boost. And then the opposite way, WWE has someone that can potentially be in the main event scene for the next 10 years. They have someone to carry the company for a longer time. There's pros and cons to both situation, but this is the wrestling business we're in. We are in a boom where someone like Daniel Bryan, someone like Jon Moxley, someone like Edge can leave WWE and feel inspired. And I'm already saying this again. Feel inspired. Feel excited to continue wrestling, and that's the beauty of this situation. At least I think.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I really, I really do agree, and for Edge, I mean, Edge going there is helping AEW massively too, and it's gonna help so many young talents have another platform for years to come, helping keep that alive. I mean, it wasn't dying by any means, but the CM Punk, there was a lot of bad PR. Bringing in a big name like Adam Copeland, that changes things, doesn't it? That it certainly does. I mean, Brett, what did you think? Are you shocked that Adam Copeland is now all elite, the rated R superstar in AEW?
Honestly, Coby was just talking about tribalism and all of that stuff being super toxic to the community and wrestling as a whole, and I completely agree. But Adam Copeland is someone who I truly did not see coming to AEW. I thought he was just going to be a WWE guy. The fact that he did makes wrestling amazing right now. I am not complaining whatsoever. I am happy about it. And it's honestly, like you said, Ben, before, a breath of fresh air. I believe with all the muddied waters that were in the past month with what's going on with Punk, this is definitely something that is going to reinvigorate and can change the entire look of the company immediately. Now, the best signing, Shad had hit on this before, the best signing that they could have done, and I was disappointed about it at first because of how much they built it up, but the best signing that they did in their entire history of AEW was Christian Cage, because if they didn't sign Christian Cage, they would not have Edge right now, or Adam Copeland. So if they built Christian to be one of the biggest heels, and they're giving him an opportunity to build others as some of the biggest heels in the company and nurture them and grow them into the talent that they're going to be huge on TV someday, such as Jack Perry, Nick Wayne going heel. That was amazing. But I just feel like Christian's doing an absolutely amazing job. Now, the storylines that are going to come from Adam Copeland in the next few weeks, months, years, let's say, is going to be pretty interesting to see. Now, do I see him lining up with Christian at the end of the day? Yes, I do. But right now, I think we're going to have a lot of fun and just see what's going on. But I'm happier than I ever could have been as a AEW fan, but as a wrestling fan in whole.
Absolutely. No, honestly, Brett, I could not agree with you more on this one. I really, really couldn't. I mean, it's one of those things, and both you and Coby touched on it, right? Where the entire tribalism thing. I mean, Edge said it best in his press conference yesterday, where he said that if you think that, then go for a walk, because that's not the case. Go touch some grass.
100%
It's not
agree
the
with that.
case. It's not the case at all. I mean, obviously, Jade Cargill, right? We mentioned her going WWE. Tony Khan will very quickly touch on this. Tony Khan spoke about this, and he said that he offered Jade Cargill. He made an offer to Jade Cargill. She turned it down. She then quoted him a price. He went, okay, I'll actually offer you slightly more than that price. So he, out of the night, being overly nice, offered him more than she asked for. And she turned it down anyway. So I can only guess that maybe then WWE offered her a higher one again or something. But Tony Khan seemed he seemed very confused in the press conference about it.
I think that means she just didn't want to come back.
Exactly.
I don't think there was a deal in his checkbook that was gonna get her to stay. I think her mind was to go to WWE.
I don't think it has anything to do with the money, to be completely honest with you. I think it has to do more with opportunity with other amazing women in this industry. And right now in AEW, there's not that many opportunities. In WWE, you have an entire book. You have an entire collection of books to choose from. So it's just the opportunity over there is going to be amazing for her to grow.
I mean, that's the thing, is she said it. She said this wasn't a financially backed move, and if she was done in wrestling, they'd be fine. She has a athletic husband that was a pro athlete in the MLB. We're looking at someone who is fine on money. She's not leaving WWE to make a lot of money or leaving AEW to make a crap ton of money. She has money. She doesn't. Well, I guess not. Who doesn't need money? But it wasn't a financially backed decision, and I fully believe that as name value of what it was said and what
Yeah.
was said to be believed by officials.
Yeah.
I believe it.
It's kind of just like the Edge situation. I feel like she wasn't creatively satisfied in AEW as Edge is not creatively satisfied in WWE. And I
Yeah.
mean, you gotta bet on yourself, take a chance.
Absolutely, and both have, and I think both fans from WWE are excited for Jade, and fans in AEW are excited for Adam Copeland, but most of all, fans of wrestling are just happy right now. But on that note, that brings us to the end of the show, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you're on YouTube, please hit like and subscribe. If you're on Spotify, please give us a cheeky 5 stars. We will be back the same time tomorrow to talk Monday Night Raw. Thank you to Coby, thank you to Bret, and thank you to Shard for joining me here today. It's been a banger of a show. We will see you guys tomorrow. Enjoy Monday Night Raw.